First, I would like to introduce the Provost of Georgia State, Dr. Risa Palm, who will offer a few comments of welcome. Thank you.
And I'm so sorry I wasn't here at the right time to welcome you. My calendar was double booked, and so when somebody came up at 20 after 11 saying, "Where is she?" I had no idea I was supposed to be here. So whatever anyone else has said about welcome, I'm going to add to that too. And I do welcome you, and it's an honor. This is my second such luncheon, the second time that I have an opportunity to attend this meeting, and it really is an honor to be here. I'm so proud that Georgia State is one of the hosts, or the host for this particular Title VI Center. I agree with whoever decided to fund us that we are the ideal place. Certainly, if we're going to look at trying to increase the pipeline of a diverse group of students, this is the place. And the other wonderful thing about Georgia State is that we really have become a national model in trying to set out success for students, in trying to really ensure that students are graduating and that students are successful in their college careers. Dr. Nichols shared with me the accomplishments of the center over the past 12 months, and I'm very impressed with them. And I bet the Dean of Arts and Sciences went through what these accomplishments were, but so I won't do it again. But I'm especially pleased that the World Languages Day attracted 600 students to Georgia State and put students together with the possibility of employers in a variety of fields, and that is really terrific. I am a former language teacher, kind of, sort of. When I got out of college the first time, that is before the PhD, I was a junior high school teacher, and because I could read a sheet of French, I was certified to teach French grades 7 through 12, and I did teach French, kind of. So as a former language teacher, I definitely agree, and I'm happy to be here for that. As a professional geographer, though, and that is my field, I really think that the area of global studies, languages, learning languages and cultures is tremendously important for Americans, for all citizens. If we're going to be good citizens, and if we're going to take our part in society and in the world. As you probably know, globalization is one of the pillars of our strategic plan, and it's something that's very important to us. Over the past few years, we've established an Institute for Global Studies, and I very much hope that the department and the Institute will have a close connection with one another. We also have tried to introduce some programs where our students involved in study abroad, whether it's they're studying abroad, or we have students coming here for a summer institute, our students are very much engaged with them as ambassadors, and I think that broadens and deepens the experience that people have. Now, what is still necessary for the university is two things that we haven't gotten to. One is a universal language requirement. I really do wish that we required, at other universities that I've been affiliated with, it was required that to get a Bachelor of Arts degree, you had to be proficient in a language something beyond English, and I truly wish that we would adopt that here. The other thing that I truly wish we would adopt, and I'm serious about that, is a requirement of a World Regional Geography course. And I'm not saying that because I'm a geographer, but the notion that you can say Botswana, oh, well, I can look it up if I need to. No, you can't. You really can't. So those are still lacking here. Nonetheless, we're very, very supportive of the work that the center is doing, and I will take no more of your time except to say again, welcome to Georgia State.
The World Geography test actually came up in our conversation at our table, so I don't think you're alone in that sentiment. I did want to make a couple of quick announcements. Following up on World Languages Day, you'll see in your packet there is a flyer for the next World Languages Day. So if anybody here would like to be involved or in any way with planning, with connections, with possible ideas, we're open. Again, as I like to say, I never say no to any kind of collaboration. And all of you know this already because that's why you're here. But joining us this morning is Dean William Long, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, who I've invited to give a few words of welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Last time we got together about a year ago, many of us that were here today, and it's great to see you all again. So many institutions from across the metro area and beyond, leaders in the language community, industry, business, journalism, and the like, all dedicated to the notion that we need to do a better job with our students in terms of language education and cross-cultural capabilities. And on behalf of the Provost and the College of Arts and Sciences, where we house foreign language instruction and cultural training, I want to welcome you and tell you how committed we are to the efforts that are being made by culture here at Georgia State and with all of you toward those ends of making our students more globally aware and professionally competent to work in a global environment. It's really a major mission. It's one of the 5 strategic plan pillars of Georgia State in its strategic plan, and there's a lot of good work ahead of us. About a year ago we got together, and since that time Georgia State has become home of CULTR, a major urban language learning center funded by the Department of Education. It's gotten off to a great first-year start. It's launched several different programs studying language, language education, language acquisition, enrollment in language, maintaining students in language studies, and the like. And it's built partnerships with many of you, and then also across the campus. It's worked very closely with our School of Business, the Robertson School of Business, and our Center for International Business Education and Research, also funded by the Department of Education, and with our college of education, where we have a major push into the K through 12 environment, working with high school teachers and the like. But that's just the beginning. We had in April, maybe some of you were here, World Language Literacy Day on campus, over 600 people in attendance from the high schools in the metro area. Tremendous enthusiasm and just the beginning. So this is our first few months, our initial year of institutional work, if you will, dedicated to this. And today is an opportunity to rev up our engines again, to have a dialogue, to discuss, and to partner going forward in all these efforts in terms of language education. So I applaud your efforts to date, look forward to hearing from you, working with you going forward, and welcome to Georgia State.
Thank you very much, Bill. My name is Bill Nichols. I guess I should have introduced myself prior to anything else. I'm one of the co-directors of CULTR, the Center for Urban Language Teaching and Research. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank everybody who has helped bring this event together. My co-director, Sarah Cushing, who is from the Department of Applied Linguistics. Our associate director, Trish Noley. Our project coordinator, Jackie Slayton. And last but certainly not least, David Cotter, our tech coordinator. I'd also like to take a few minutes to recognize a couple of other people. Tim Jansa, the business manager of World Languages and Cultures, who's helped us figure out a number of key pieces of this puzzle. And also the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning, who has helped us with the recording, the video recording of the speeches today, as well as the keynote talk that we'll also be putting up next week on our website that you can come back to, along with the PowerPoint that Dr. Davidson will be presenting. And I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the presence of our grant officer, our beloved grant officer from the Department of Education, Stephanie McKissick. So when you speak of us, speak nicely. And amongst you are several members of our advisory board who I feel like I don't know about other Title VI centers or other LRCs, but we have an extremely active and engaged advisory board. So those of you who are on our advisory board and you know who you are, please raise your hand or stand or So without the support of our advisor board, really a lot of the things that we do, we definitely could not do. They're our sounding board. They give us sound advice and give us tremendous direction for the vision that we have. So you may be asking yourself, well, what is a Title VI center? What is this thing that is called CULTR? And a LRC, CULTR is an LRC, a language resource center funded through Title VI of the Department of Education. And there are 16 throughout the nation, and each has a slightly different focus. Some focus on Slavic languages, others focus on project-based language programs. And I'll talk a little bit about CULTR's focus in just a moment. But overall, LRCs are charged with the task of enhancing and promoting and encouraging language development and professional development for language teachers through materials or workshops or what have you throughout the K through 16 continuum. So the priorities of the LRC in the 2014 grant cycle, there were 4 basic competitive priorities that were outlined and emphasized through the DOE. Minority serving institutions, institutions that serve underrepresented students, especially community colleges, and that could be students with high financial need, ethnic and racial minorities, first generation students, et cetera. And number 3, they were focused on applications that really paid attention to developing a K through 16 pipeline that emphasized career opportunities in connection with languages in business, hospitality, public health, diplomacy, security, etc. And lastly, they prioritized applications that showed collaborations between Title VI centers. So Dean Long mentioned cyber. We have a cyber here that is also a Title VI center, and we work very closely with them. Other Title VI centers are NRCs, they're useful programs, undergraduate international studies in foreign languages, FLAS, et cetera. So we really paid a lot of attention to these various competitive priorities, and I feel like we hit on all 4 of these, especially in what brings us together today, the third, the creation of a K through 16 pipeline focused on career opportunities as it connects with languages. So today, the various groups that are represented include K through 16 education. So we have people that are representative of different districts, the World Language District Coordinators, higher ed, et cetera. We have people here who represent business and nonprofit, and that includes hospitality, it includes international commerce and trade, it includes travel, it includes nonprofits such as the Peace Corps, YMCA, et cetera. And lastly, we have government represented. So this includes national security, it includes public health, it includes policy, at local levels, state levels, and even national levels. So in terms of creating this K through 16 pipeline, one of the ideas that we would like to communicate is that we are each stakeholders in this process, that government and policy really cannot exist or push an agenda without education. And education, for as much as we want to develop curriculum and promote language study among students, without the business component and an idea of where this road leads to, really we're lost. And business without education, promoting and training students in global competency, they would not have the globalized or globally competent workforce that they need and are asking for. So the larger objective here is for us to not only begin a conversation or continue a conversation, but to think of how we can create collaborations, or what I've recently begun calling a symbiotic relationship, where on the academic side, I'm thinking of curricular development, but then I think of things that I need. So from a business end practicum, project-based credit-bearing practicum where we can combine content knowledge with real-world experience. And then how government can play a role in this by creating policy, for example, and we'll get to this in just a moment, a seal of biliteracy that really promotes and incentivizes students to be thinking about not only becoming bilingual, but biliterate, where there is a clear sense of reading, writing, and cultural awareness, okay? So as we think about what we have to offer and how we can work together, these things will converge and merge together and into this relationship that is mutually beneficial and will ultimately lead to, in our localized case, globalizing Atlanta. And the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce right now is working with the Brookings Institute, and Rick will talk in just a moment about this, about a Global Cities Initiative. So while we're thinking of ways in which we can work together to globalize Atlanta from the point of view of education, the point of view of government, the point of view of business and nonprofit, what we ultimately want to do is create a model that is replicable to other cities that are also participating in a Global Cities Initiative. So from my point of view, what I would like to see happen is we establish the model that others seek to emulate. That the way we globalize our city, the way we prepare our students as stakeholders invested in this project will be something that San Antonio will want to imitate, that Louisville will want to imitate, that all of these other cities participating in this initiative will want to imitate. So with that hopefully that will give a slight framework to the conversation that we'll be having throughout the day and into the afternoon. After the keynote talk, we will have a short breakout session in which we have prepared a survey, and table by table people will be having a conversation that is guided through a series of questions where we can have a sense of a barometer of where people are at from the perspective of their different fields with regard to global competence, what skills are associated, what are the purposes, how can we better enhance global competence with students, et cetera. And the purpose of that will be as a first step toward a larger survey that we would hope leads into a series of white papers where we can really have a solidified structure and a model for other cities to imitate, and a clear policy of what it means to globalize a city, a state, a country. Thank you. So, so first I would ask Rick Hubler from the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce to describe a little bit about the Global Cities Initiative. Thanks, Rick.
Thank you, Bill. Do you have the remote?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. No worries.
So I think they're going to bring that
They're
up.
queuing it up right
Okay.
now, yeah. Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Bill, and to the team here at Georgia State for this opportunity to speak. I promised I would be brief, but give you an overview of the Global Cities Initiative. My title is quite a mouthful, but effectively I'm the International Trade Director at the Metro Atlanta Chamber, and always happy to be here at Georgia State. In fact, my alma mater. I'm a proud graduate of the inaugural class of the Global Partners MBA here. Want to share with you just some of the Global Cities Initiative that we're engaged in with the Brookings Institute. When I say we, it's not just the Metro Atlanta Chamber, but it's actually a partnership of many regional agencies. It's Metro Atlanta Chamber, City of Atlanta, Invest Atlanta, State of Georgia, Department of Economic Development, county chambers, economic development agencies, but universities as well. We have the cyber from Georgia State here engaged with us, as well as the cyber from Georgia Tech and representatives from Kennesaw that are engaged in this initiative. The reason that we've engaged Brookings on the Global Cities Initiative, and I want to use the term that they've presented in their findings, global fluency. It's an initiative that is focused on making the world's large metro areas more global, particularly in an interconnected world economy. So to give you some quick stats, the 300 largest metro areas in the world account for half of the world's GDP. So there's a reason that Brookings is looking at metro areas and saying, okay, let's focus on building growth, let's focus on building the global fluency. And the description that you see there is that level of global understanding, competence, practice, and reach. So we're interested in building those components of global fluency here in Metro Atlanta because, as of course a Chamber of Commerce, we want to see Atlanta, the metro region, and the state of Georgia more competitive in the global economy. I've got actually better slides that I can share, or better infographics that I can share with Bill that we can distribute out to everyone, because what you see are the 10 components that Brookings highlights as the facets of building global fluency. Things such as worldview, leadership, legacy of global orientation, expertise, world expertise. So when you think of things such as the Olympics being here is one of our global legacies, but also our reach, the CDC. We are the world's public health capital. Whenever there's a pandemic or an issue with public health in the world, they come to Atlanta. These are things that we want to develop. So within the Global Cities Initiative, from the business perspective, we actually approached it from 2 different areas. And there are 2 reports. I have just quick visual copies here. We actually encourage you to hit the websites that we have at the bottom to download PDF copies of the reports. So I'm in economic development, and in economic development, international business takes two faces. One is trade, one is foreign direct investment. So we started with the Global Cities Initiative on our export plan. That's the trade side. What that means is help our local companies to do business internationally. Now, in the U.S., unfortunately, the statistics are kind of grim for exports. Exports only make up about 13% of our overall national economy. In comparison, when you look at countries like Canada, China, Mexico, over 30%. When you look at kind of the gold standard, Germany, over 40% of their economy are based on exports. In a global economy, they're much better positioned. Their companies are much better positioned. So we pulled together the Metro Export Plan, which is, again, an initiative of the Global Cities Initiative, but it's amongst the regional partners to get more of our local companies looking at doing international business, providing them with roadmaps, resources, and tools to get them to sell more. And, of course, one of the pieces that we found in all of the surveys and interviews is that globally skilled talent is an issue. For our companies that are homegrown here, that are startups here, they can find resources at the state level, they can find resources at the federal level, but a big challenge is still finding local talent that understands how to do business cross cultures, cross time zones. So we're very much interested in building that talent here in Metro Atlanta for our companies. The second stage of our Global Cities Initiative is the FDI plan. FDI stands for Foreign Direct Investment. What that means is I have a colleague that travels the world that is trying to convince companies, come here to Metro Atlanta, establish operations, whether it's a sales office, a manufacturing facility, a research and development center, come use Atlanta as your base for new investment, for new operations. That's critical for us because as you look around Metro Atlanta, we have almost 3,000 installations of foreign companies that have chosen Metro Atlanta to establish their base either for the U.S. or even for the entire Western Hemisphere, for the Americas. And we've done a great job of recruiting investment from Europe and some from Asia as well, but it's become more and more competitive as we compete with not just Nashville, Jacksonville, Charlotte, but now we're competing with Seattle, San Francisco, LA, Toronto, Sao Paulo, even Tokyo in some cases. And one of the things that concerned us and that came up again as we did our research in the plan, interviewing local companies, interviewing agencies, one of the things that we heard is, again, global talent, workforce development is critical. And in the case of foreign direct investment, what we found is it's now more a case of mergers and acquisitions. So whereby my colleague used to travel around the world, try to convince companies to start new investment. Instead, they're looking at smaller companies that are here that they can acquire, get a foothold into the U.S. And what we've also seen amongst our peer cities that have done similar research is it's now about building communities. It's no longer good enough that Atlanta has just industry experience, but Also that we've built communities here that are friendly to Japanese investment, which has grown significantly here, German investment, which has grown significantly here. And again, that reverts back to the global skills. We've heard many a times outside of Atlanta that Atlanta is great when it comes to functional expertise. You can find plenty of attorneys here, engineers, scientists, negotiators, salespeople. But one of the things that we constantly hear is that Atlanta lacks when it comes to globally skilled talent. I mentioned things as simple as understanding difference in time zones, difference in understanding cross-border, cross-cultural interactions. And that's critical for us because if we want to make Atlanta, and particularly our business community, more global, we've got to develop those global skills. And if we don't, again, we're losing out to San Francisco's, Seattle's, San Diego's, Austin, where they're viewed, whether or not it's real, they're viewed as being more global than we are. So again, for both our trade side, which is growing our companies locally, and our FDI side, which is bringing international companies here to Metro Atlanta, we're happy to participate in programs such as this, CULTR, to look at not just language, which we see as a first step, but also the culture aspect, the leadership aspect, and the communication aspect, LC, as we like to say. These are all components for us that are important, that are in fact critical in building Atlanta, Metro Atlanta, as a global city to compete in the future. So I'll leave on that note with just my contact information. I'll be around here through the lunch. If you have any questions or you'd like to follow up, I'd be happy to share the information from the slides today, as well as further details regarding both our FDI plan and our trade plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. And so we will put his slides up on our website as well as links to the websites that he has mentioned. And again, as I mentioned, so on the one hand, we have business, I represent education, and I've asked Michaela Klaus-Nix to give a brief overview of the recently signed, just over a week ago, Seal of Biliteracy for the state of Georgia. So Michaela Klaus-Nix is the World Language Supervisor for the Georgia Department of Education.
Well, I hope that we have really listened to what we just heard, because that's exactly what we're trying to do at the Department of Education, listening to business and industry and all the stakeholders that we have in the state of Georgia, and see how we can make our education and our students more meaningful for everybody involved and get them really ready for a global economy and a global workforce. So as of May 3rd, 2016, Governor Deal signed the Seal of Biliteracy into law, and we have a Seal of Biliteracy in the state of Georgia, which is absolutely wonderful. So that takes care of that language part that you have right there. I think we have one of the most rigorous seals of biliteracy in the state. Bill Rivers was just talking about that we are number 18, that we have 18 states in the nation now that offer a seal of biliteracy, really making sure that our students are fluent in at least 2 languages, if not more, and that they are functional. And I think this is what we hear from businesses all the time, that they are functional immediately when they enter the business, so that an employer can say, I can put you on the phone with Japan right there because I know that you have the seal of biliteracy and that you're functional, and then you can talk to anybody in the target culture right away. So I think that is absolutely important. So I think we have one of the most rigorous biliteracy seals in the nation. We're requiring not only English proficiency, but a very high level of language proficiency in the target language. So these are the requirements. So we have to have, students have to have at least a 3.0 in the English, and they have to meet all the requirements, and that includes our English learners. And then for our target language learners, for the second language, we're requiring at least a 4 on an AP exam, and we have David Jana here. He will know what that means. I don't know, David, right there. And we're also requiring at least a 5 on an international baccalaureate exam. We really wanted to make sure that they have a high enough proficiency to really meet all the expectations that we have from higher education institutions and from businesses. So if they meet those requirements, then they will earn the seal of biliteracy starting in 2016 and 17. Immediately when that law came into effect, we had calls from parents and students and say, can we do that right now? Unfortunately not, because the law doesn't go into effect until July 1st, so we will have that opportunity available. There's a lot more questions that we have and that schools are coming already to the Department of Education with. We have some guidance on our website, and I'll be happy to forward that to anybody. One of the biggest questions is APIB. The scores don't get reported until July, so how are we going to do that? So all of those questions are answered on our website if you have that. So please come and check us out. I think this is absolutely fantastic and a wonderful opportunity for all of our students. Hopefully this is one way for us to really encourage students to take upper level classes. Most of our world language students are in a level 1 or a level 2 enrolled at the high school level, and this hopefully will really encourage them to stick with their word language of choice and really become fluent in the word language. We have another component. I think Rick was just talking about language is only the first step. We have another seal that we have in the state of Georgia that is called the International Skills Diploma Seal. This is where language is also an important part, but this is where we're really encouraging students to go out into the world and engage in cross-cultural activities and engage with people from other cultures. So they have a component of extracurricular activities and community service where we're really trying to push them out, and then they have to have a reflection with a capstone presentation, which has been absolutely phenomenal. So we actually are probably the only state in the nation that have both, that have the cultural component, the cross-cultural component with the International Skills Diploma Seal, and the language proficiency with the Seal of Biliteracy. So I think there's something exciting going on. We cannot have that really without people like all of us working together. So I think the Seal of Biliteracy, and that it came into being as smoothly as it did this year, is really thanks to a lot of people that are sitting in this room and that have quietly worked behind the scenes and really made this possible by encouraging members of organizations to contact legislatures and say this is a wonderful thing. So Flag and Greg Barfield right here, if you could give them a hand, they have just worked tirelessly. Also David Jana and Skold and so many other, amazing people that have really reached out and really encouraged our legislators to pass this wonderful law. So thank you to all of that. And that's really all that I have to say. So thank you so much. I think it's exciting what we can do with world languages. I think we will see a lot more, and hopefully we'll pass all those wonderful students with all their new skills onto the university level and into the business world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michaela. There's one other piece to that puzzle that is really booming in Georgia, which is the dual language immersion. And Michaela has been at the forefront of dual language immersion schools emerging in the state of Georgia. So I mean, that's another piece to the biliteracy puzzle that we're also working with Michaela's office closely on. So I know we're right on target for schedule, but there's one last piece that we would like to show you this morning before we begin the lunch service. As Dean Long alluded to, on April 15th, we hosted a World Languages Day with the design of taking ourselves as educators out of the middle, creating essentially what I discussed with a colleague the other day as a neutral ground where students could come and speak directly with potential employers from a whole vast array of career fields and options, from business to nonprofit, security, public health, etc. So what I would like to share with you before we begin the lunch service is the video from that event.
120 million people in the United States. Right? That's a lot of people. But 90% of Americans don't speak a second language. If you guys pick one up, that puts you in that 10%. That gives you a leg up.
Thank you very much, and enjoy your lunch.